Hello, beautiful Earth Angels. Welcome to my channel. My name is Joanna. If this is your first time stopping here, thank you for stopping by. I hope you like what you hear. My intention is very simple. It's to help you understand yourself better. It's to help you understand yourself on a much deeper level. Why is that important? Because when you understand your deep truth, it is actually what sets you free. So I have a feeling we're going to dive really deep into matters in this video. So if you are interested in accessing higher wisdom, higher frequency information for the purpose of bettering yourself and bettering life on this planet, then do stay tuned. If you like what you hear, I'm getting chills. If you like what you hear, I would love for you to click like, subscribe button, the little notification button that tells you when I upload new videos. It's usually once a week, on Saturday, on Sunday, or Sunday. And if you find this information useful, helpful, interesting, curious, or thought-provoking, do share it with a friend or two. The more we all know our deep truth, the better chance we have of setting ourselves free. And we are in some pretty intense energies right now. So if you are new, thank you. I hope you stay. And thank you for choosing to spend your time with me for however long it takes. I will go through the general messages first, and then I have 3 piles that you can choose from, or hear all 3, be intuitively guided to what you're drawn to the most. Chances are all 3 will offer you something of benefit. Thank you. For those of you who are returning, thank you so much for coming back. This is going to be yet another transmission, or a weekly pulse, as I used to call them. And although there is, I am recording this on 1st of August, 2021, whenever you hear this, it is exactly the right time for you to hear whatever is coming through. This is channeled information, which means I am receiving this information from higher guidance. What does that mean? Higher guidance is frequency, energies, beings, consciousnesses that are of higher vibration than the 3D construct that we are in. And I do this on a regular basis, as this is what I do for a living. And if you watched a few of my videos, then you probably have a pretty good idea of what that's about. So thank you so much for coming back. I want to start by saying that we are in major shifts right now. And I want to say these words. It's as if we are in some sort of a war, but the war is ending. And yes, it can pertain to war that we are experiencing on a physical level. But this is not what I am referring to. What I am referring to is our internal wars. What is a war? War is a conflict. So what I am referring to is internal conflict. Being a human being, wearing a physical body, being in a physical vessel, in a 3D construct, oftentimes, if not almost always, means that we are riddled with inner conflict. What is a conflict? Well, conflict is something or somewhere where at least one aspect of you disagrees with another aspect of you. And we are all multidimensional beings. However, many people in this physical world are not aware of this. we are not aware of this simply because we don't remember. We do not have our memory intact of who we really are and what our purpose really is here. However, if you are listening to this, chances are you have some awareness. So when I say we don't have awareness, I'm referring to those who don't have awareness, who are strictly living life in 3D concept, not having any interest, awareness, or desire to know more about who they are other than the physical vessel. Okay? And this is not a judgment. This is simply stating a fact, if you will. But if you are here listening to this, the chances are you are not one of those individuals. And again, I want to stress very, very emphatically that this is not a judgment. Why am I saying this? Because the 3D world is experiencing a lot of conflict right now. And it is very easy to get sucked in to this conflict, like a hole that sucks you in. And the one way that I know of, that I am being guided to express, to ensure that we don't get sucked into this drama, if you will, is to know our own truth. It's to know our deep truth. And the truth is always on the inside. The outside is the reflection of our truth. So if we are experiencing a lot of external conflict, then that simply means that it is an externalization of our inner conflict. And in order to understand our inner conflict and to resolve our inner conflict so that we are not experiencing outer conflict, for that we have to go deep within. And that is an extraordinary amount of work. And I am always a very straightforward, honest person, and I will never bullshit you by saying this is easy. This is not easy. A few years ago, I had a being enter my sphere of consciousness. This consciousness, or this being, goes by a name of Thoth. Some of you may have heard this. It's an ancient Egyptian deity, or god, if you will. And I channeled information. I wrote several paragraphs, and after I wrote these paragraphs, I read them, because as I channeled them, I didn't know what it was talking about, and I actually didn't understand what it was talking about until sometime later. And what this channel was about is exactly that: our inner wars, and that we will be facing wars in order to end our inner conflict. So if you are sticking with me thus far, thank you. If in some way this is triggering you, then this may not be right for you, or this may simply not be the right time for you for this information. And there is no judgment in that either. It is absolutely okay. Everyone has to be able to face their inner conflict, and it is not something that can be forced. It has to come from within. Sometimes outside circumstances will force us to look at our inner conflict, but no one can force you to look at your truth. That is something that each and every one of us has to choose or decide to do for ourselves. And until we make that conscious choice, until we make a sober decision to look deep within and realize that what is happening on the outside is merely a reflection of what is on the inside, nothing will ever change. So I talked for quite a few months how we are experiencing a lot of shifting and a lot of very powerful energies. And even though I was channeling this, I was on some level understanding this, I actually didn't have any context until recently. And personally, I have been experiencing a lot of powerful energies, a lot of inner conflict coming up to the surface. Now, I, as Joanna, pride myself at looking at inner conflict. It's that working with shadow self is my passion, is what I do for a living as a hypnotherapist, as a therapist, as a healer, as a channeler, whatever name you want to call it. I love diving deep, but it is not easy. It comes with a lot of fear and with a lot of discomfort. So, personally speaking, and I'm going to share this with you because I truly believe that if I'm experiencing these energies, so are you, whoever you are. And if you are not experiencing these energies now, then probably you will at some point later, or you may have been experiencing these energies for quite some time. I've said before that my job, if you will, is to share my experience, because through sharing my experience, I grow, and hopefully I can express something that helps you to grow as well. I can somehow and maybe say a word or two that will make you think. And therefore, because of that, you will make a different choice or different decision that will lead you in a different life, in a different trajectory towards your life or in your life. Though I've done a video about a week ago, it feels like I haven't done a video for weeks. That's just how much I have been experiencing intensely over the last week. I have mentioned in other videos, the last two I believe, that I've been experiencing almost a sensation of leaving my body. Well, it's so much more than that. As a matter of fact, I have been experiencing a lot of intense energies that are, that have pushed me, if you will, to the brink of having panic attacks. An anxiety attacks, panic attacks is not something that I've ever experienced in my life. I maybe had it once long time ago, but it was nothing like what I'm experiencing now. And it is so intense that it can be debilitating. And my understanding is that I am becoming so sensitive to everything around me, including what I hear, what I see, what I think, what I ingest, that my body is on overdrive. And the sheer intensity of the energies that we are experiencing is pushing me energetically into this space where my body is not able to effectively deal with all that energy. And the way I am experiencing it is through, I've had quite a few panic attacks. So I am not saying that you will experience this, though I believe some of you already have, especially those of you who are sensitive. But here's what I am saying. The whole idea of becoming extra sensitive is not a small thing. It's not a joke. It's not a walk in the park. It's like a double-edged sword. The more sensitive you are, the more you can pick up from your environment different subtle frequencies, including connecting with higher consciousnesses. But at the same time, we are also susceptible to being thrown off kilter by all that is going on in our world right now. And there is a lot going on in our world right now, as I'm sure you all know already. Peace is something that comes from the inside. Yes, peace is something that can, outside can contribute to us feeling peace, but ultimately peace is a feeling, it's a state of being, and it comes from the inside. So though the external does contribute to us feeling peaceful, if internally we are full of inner conflict and we don't experience inner peace, the outer conflict on the outside is going to make that lack of inner peace that much greater. So if you're watching this, chances are you probably know what I'm talking about. If not, you might be scratching your head. That's okay. I always say, if something does not make sense to you right now, but you're still listening to this, then chances are it will make sense to you later. Maybe it's giving you information for when something like this starts to occur in your life. You'll go, oh my God, she was talking about this. Now it makes sense. Sensitivity is a real thing. I always knew that, although I knew that more logically, cognitively, not so much in the body. And now I'm experiencing this in the body. So I have to find ways to deal with these energies and frequencies in a way that does not disrupt or disturb my everyday life. Because these things can, like I said, can be quite debilitating. And for any of you who have experienced panic attacks or you've dealt with panic attacks in your life, my heart goes out to you, because it is not, I repeat, it is not a place I would want to be. So my heart goes out to you. If you are a person who is sensitive, you will become extra sensitive. And it is absolutely, what's the word? Important. There's a stronger word. It is absolutely important that if you consider yourself to be a sensitive person, that you make sure you stay grounded, you keep yourself centered, and you keep your energies aligned as much as you possibly can, so that you don't get sucked into the vortex of drama that's going on in the world right now. There's things I wrote here that were coming through, channeled information. Part of what we're experiencing or will be experiencing are issues with self-identity. What does it mean? Issues with self-identity. Well, if the way you identify yourself causes you challenges or issues or problems you don't want to have, then that's what I mean by self-identity issues. So here's what came through. Expansion of self-awareness impacts the way you see yourself. In other words, we are in a space where we have the opportunity to expand the way we see ourselves, or the way we identify ourselves. Now, I said the word opportunity, and that's because no one can force you to shift the way you see yourself. The only way that you shift the way you see yourself is if you choose to. Even if someone forces something on you, that inner thing that has to happen where you shift, that generally happens because you choose to do so. So self-identity, expansion of self-awareness impacts the way you see yourself, and it alters your self-identity. In other words, by having the opportunity to shift the way we see ourselves, by looking at our inner conflict and resolving inner conflict and ultimately bringing in more peace or cultivating in more peace that peace is going to eventually be expressed on the outside and experienced on the outside. So to give an example, if you're a person that is full of inner conflict, chances are you will be experiencing a lot of outer conflict because the outer conflict is merely a reflection of the inner conflict. Okay? On the other hand, if you don't have as much inner conflict and if you have some inner peace, some contentment, you could be living in a world that's full of conflict, but you may not be experiencing that conflict. And I have moments where I am experiencing peace despite the fact that there is conflict all around us. But I have to be very honest. It's very easy to get sucked right back in, to get sucked into these energies of fear and drama and panic and blame and distortion. I always say, everything is an inside job. And in order for us to experience a different reality, it has to come from the inside. So if you have a lot of conflict within yourself, for example, when you see yourself as a victim, then that is the life that you will experience. There is just no other way. The universe has no other option but to give you that which you believe. The universe has no preference. It doesn't judge. It doesn't care, for lack of a better word, what you believe or don't believe. All the universe does, it matches your frequency. So if you are vibrating at a frequency of less than, of being a victim or feeling like a victim, where you believe that everyone is out there to get you, the universe has no choice but to give you the corresponding experience. And I know for some of you it's going to be very hard to understand. It took me a long time to be able to actually to see it. And I was not able to see it until I started to look at my own inner conflict. What this situation that we are experiencing worldwide brought up in me, and I think everyone knows what I'm talking about, is my own issues of inner confinement and feeling of being controlled. But it's not that I am being controlled. It's that the outside is triggering my own stuff around feeling like I am being controlled. And that stuff is from my past, is from my earlier upbringing. And I had to really go deep inside and look at that inner conflict and do what I call shadow work in order to be able to work through it and shed that old energy. But I still have the propensity to go back to it. So I always have to go back and remember to stay focused and aligned and centered. Like I've mentioned at the very beginning, we are in some pretty tough energies right now. The Lion's Gate, as many people call it, is coming up. I'm not an astrologer, I always say that, but I do understand it's a very powerful energy. The lion stands for strength, for truth, for independence, also for collaboration is what I'm hearing. And if we are fighting each other, then there is no collaboration. Collaboration allows for things to move forward. This creates a standstill. So it's the same on the inside. If you have a lot of inner conflict, then that energy is just stuck there and it doesn't feel very good. So self-awareness is key right now. I mean, self-awareness is always key as far as I'm concerned. Without self-awareness, there is very little one can do in order to change things for better. But now more than anything, now more than any other time, self-awareness is at the forefront of everyone's mind, or I feel it should be. Now, should is a funny word because it implies it's my belief, but yes, it is my belief that when we are self-aware, and self-awareness is not just looking at your conscious thoughts and conscious beliefs, it goes way deeper than that. Remember, over 95%, if not more, of everything that we do, say, is governed by the unconscious, which means we don't even understand why we do what we do, why we say what we say, why we believe what we believe. We just do, because that's what we've done. But in order to shift our consciousness, in order for the paradigm to shift, we have to go deeper. And I now believe this is the time. And I don't know about you, but I am seeing the world being divided. And that is a sad thing. It is a very sad thing, because it means that as humanity, we are not united. And when we are not united, that means there is a lot of conflict. When there is a lot of conflict, that means that there is no peace. So in order for this world to experience a lot more peace, we have to start looking at creating more unity. And I've been thinking about this for the last few days, and it is a big job. It is obviously not something that one can do, but it is something that comes from within each person. So if you are wanting to experience a better world, a peaceful world, a more peaceful world, a more cordial world, a more gentler world, then you have to start from within. And no, it's not easy. Absolutely not. But I don't believe we're here because we thought it was going to be easy. I believe that we are here in order to face a challenge, in order to hopefully move through a challenge and leave this world a better place. And the only way I know how to do it, and the only way that my team is always guiding me, is it has to come from within. It starts within each person. So if you are feeling intense energies right now, know that you're not alone. If you are feeling a lot of conflict on the outside, notice, what is it triggering on the inside for you? What truth deep inside you is being triggered? And is it your truth? Is it your truth that's being triggered, or is it someone else's truth that you took on because you didn't know any different? This is the time where you want to look at all of that. You don't have to, you have free will, of course, and there's no judgment if you don't. But if you do, chances are, by working through whatever that comes out, whatever comes out for you, whatever that is for you, you'll experience some ups and downs and some turmoil, because that's what happens when we start facing our inner truth. Things come into our face and we're like, but once you work through it, you come out on the other side. Facing the shadow is hard work. it almost feels like I'm emphasizing the word hard work, because it is. I don't want to BS anyone and say it's easy. It's not. It's not. It absolutely is not. Because the shadow self is part of the ego. And we have a lot of existential fears. We cling on to these existential fears. Most of us don't even realize that, because it's so deeply rooted and so deeply subconscious. For example, if you have a deeply rooted fear of fearing being alone or left alone, and you're surrounded by people, but you still have the fear, then that means that this inner conflict is coming from some place other than where you are, and some deep truth is governing the way you feel or governing the way you live your life. And if you have fears of being left alone, you will see the world, A, through distorted lens, and B, you will experience your world in a way that will be limiting for you, because you will limit yourself due to your fear, because of your fear. And that's true for any fear. The bigger the fear, the more we are limited by it, and the less we are able to experience our life to the fullest. Okay? I'm going to show you a couple of visuals that came through for the collective. Fire and water. Fire and water meeting. So the feminine and the masculine. And the person is in a position of, I want to say the word surrender, but also in a position of receiving. So even though this person is engulfed in fire, or there is a fire around him or her, and he or she is engulfed in water, so there's a lot of fiery commotion, a lot of emotions, a lot of anger, a lot of fiery energy, and a lot of emotions. The person is able to maintain some peace. And the person is not focusing on the anger or the fiery energy. The person is not focusing on the water energy, on the emotions. They're accepting both, but they're not focusing on both. They're not exclusive. He or she is not exclusively focusing on either or. This person is just accepting. And I want to say the word surrender. This person is surrendering to what is happening around him or her. And this is how I want to leave this message with you. I mentioned before that the idea of surrender and giving up are not the same thing. Surrender to me says, universe, show me the way, because my limited ego is not giving me what I want to my satisfaction. Giving up, you're saying you're done. So those two are two very different things. So surrender is one. What does it mean to surrender to your emotions? Let me give you an example or context here. When I had few of those panic moments, let's call them whatever they call, anxiety attacks, whenever, I don't even like that name, but when I had them, the last thing I wanted to do was facing what I was feeling, because what I was feeling was absolute terror. That's what it felt like. The last thing I wanted to do was to feel it. I was trying to be everywhere and anywhere, but not where I was, because it feels awful. But you cannot face something by running away from it. So as counterintuitive as it is, the best way for me to deal with when I'm in that state is to actually feel what I'm feeling. And I will tell you from my first-hand experience, it is not easy nor pleasant. I almost want to say it's almost impossible, though it's not impossible, because I've managed to do it in bits and pieces to the point where I was actually able to vocalize what I was feeling. And some of the feelings that were coming up where I was experiencing feeling trapped. I wasn't trapped. I'm a free person. But the feelings of being trapped were coming up. Also, feelings of being tricked is like, wow, where is this coming from? Nobody's tricking me. I'm very sober and aware. But these old feelings and emotions of being tricked were coming up for me. Now, I was only able to be conscious of it because I was able to feel and allow myself to feel what I was feeling in that moment, which again was very, very hard. So all these things that were coming up were internal blockages or energetic storage stuff somewhere from my past. And my understanding is that when I'm experiencing these episodes, it's the energy trying to flow through me, and it comes across an energetic block, and that's what creates this almost like, well, it's this pent-up energy. It's like a knot. It's like a knot, energetic knot. So surrender. When you are feeling very big emotions, the last thing you want to do is surrender to these emotions. I know, it's the last thing you want to do, but it is, if not the best thing to do, then certainly one of the best things to do in order to move through it. Because at the end of the day, remember, emotion is frequency, it's energy, it's vibration. If it comes up, but we want to push it down, then that means that whatever that frequency is, it has no ability to work itself through our bodies, so it remains stuck. And it remains like an energetic block. And in order to free ourselves from our inner conflict, we have to be able to face our feelings and our emotions, despite of how difficult it is. This is actually what I do with my clients. 9 times out of 10, the client will allow themselves to go through it because I'm energetically holding their energy. I'm allowing them to have the space and the energy to be able to do that. There will be a person once in a while that says, no going there, and that's their choice. There is nothing that I can do. I cannot force someone to face their truth, because remember, that's something that has to be decided with each and every individual. Let's go through the piles. Oh, one more card. The never-ending story came up in reverse. So this message in reverse, basically, I'm going to actually read this to you. I don't usually read, but I was guided to read. This message literally means, this is a time to avoid drama at all costs, especially when it comes to other people's stuff. Your sensitivity is on overload these days. This is exactly what I was feeling. And you're best served by keeping your distance. Your mantra today is, not my circus, not my monkeys. All this drama will pass, and you will carry on unscathed and blameless. So notice if you are being triggered these days. What is being triggered in you? And also, are you perhaps taking on somebody else's stuff without even knowing it? Are you subscribing to someone else's truth because it's convenient, because it's there, because for whatever reason? It is so important that we now understand our deep truth. Like I said before, this whole situation that we have been going through over the last year and a half has unearthed deep issues within me around control. Not because I am being controlled. No one controls me. No one is telling me to do something. No one is saying, do this or else. No. But it was triggering that in me. And until I took a deep look at what that was and consciously chose to work through it, so that's shadow work, then I was going to be feeling like I'm being controlled. Now, for most of you watching this, you're not being controlled. You live in a free world, and yes, there are suggestions being made here and there, and everybody has their own agenda. But at the end of the day, you are a free person for the most part. Yes, you abide by certain rules. You don't drink and drive, you don't kill people, you don't steal, and those are the things you're told to do, and you abide by those. You don't seem to question them, most of you. I certainly don't question them. That makes sense to me. So, for whatever it's worth, it's really important that you know your deep truth these days. And it's always important, but knowing your truth also will reveal your inner conflict, your deeply seated inner conflict. And when you can transform this inner conflict and work with the shadow self and work through it and come out on the other side, I can pretty much guarantee you that your world around you, even though the world is going to remain the same, how you experience your world is not going to be the same. And then you're going to have to stay very vigilant in keeping yourself aligned and focused. Okay? Be smart. Be conscious. Be aware. And know that you are part of higher consciousness. And if you are part of higher consciousness, of consciousness itself, and you want consciousness to expand and be living in a higher consciousness, then you have to do your part. That's all I'm going to say. And I'm not saying that you're not doing it. I may be validating what you're already doing. Okay? All right. Let's move to our first pile. So the messages are basically, we're in expansion, massive expansion, some tricky energies. What can you expect? So if you're choosing pile number 1, let's see what we've got. You have 2 of Cups, spiritual union. You have spiritual quest. Align your universe. Seriously. What I'm sensing first and foremost, there's a lot of yellow that I'm seeing and green. So when it comes to the solar plexus, which is, by the way, all about the ego, and ego is not a bad thing. I always say ego is not a bad thing. Ego is wonderful. Ego is beautiful. Ego in alignment with your spirit self can move mountains. Okay? It is when ego is out of alignment. Inner conflict is ego. Okay? Again, that's not a blame. Spiritual union. This to me represents the balance between yin and yang. So yes, for those of you who are into tarot readings, I'm not a tarot reader, this may represent a union with another person, a spiritual union, a union of really great importance. It could be romantic, but this is not what I see. What I see more than that is the expansion of, or the balancing of yin and yang. When everything is in balance, life feels very different. When the yin and the yang, or the feminine and the masculine, or the fire and the water is in balance, we experience greater peace. So this is very much confirming. So if you're choosing pile 1, my sense is that you will begin to experience much greater peace within you, and therefore outside of you, because remember, what is on the outside is merely a reflection on what is within. You can be experiencing, you can be looking on the outside and see conflict, but you may not be experiencing it as conflict, because how you experience the outside is relative to how you see on the inside, who you are on the inside, what you believe on the inside. Okay? What I'm also getting from this message is that your third eye is expanding. But that makes perfect sense to me logically. When we are more at peace, when we are more balanced, when our energies are more balanced out, we are more able to perceive the finer frequencies, including our psychic abilities. Okay? I'm just trying to tune in. For some of you, this means your heart chakra is opening. And I've been experiencing opening of my heart chakra. It's been quite a few, I want to say, the last 2 years when I've been consciously focusing on expanding my heart chakra. It's not easy. If you've been hurt, and you're a human, so chances are you have been hurt. Your heart chakra took a beating. When we are hurt, we close. Okay, our heart chakra closes. So this to me symbolizes expansion of your heart chakra, which is literally what higher consciousness is living more from the heart space. So this is beautiful. Okay. Spiritual quest. You are on a spiritual journey, whether you know it or not, whether you like it or not, whether you believe it or not. You are a spirit having a journey in a physical body. What you make of that is up to you. But you are on a spiritual journey. I feel that if you are watching this, or if you're drawn to pile number 1, your spirit, if you will, is taking the front seat, which means you may have been living your life guided predominantly by your ego. And again, there's nothing wrong with that. I don't label things as bad or good, or so I want to be very clear. There's no judgment here. Zero. No judgment. Okay? It's just a shift of perspective. Chances are you have been you likely have been living your life through the eyes of mostly the ego, which is the pure physical 3D construct. But you are now evolving, and you are moving through into higher consciousness, and your spirit, if you will, is taking the front seat, which means you are learning how to trust yourself more. You are learning how to trust your intuition. You are being guided by your spirit, by higher consciousnesses, by higher intelligences, by higher ideals. You are also feeling more safe than you have been as you are allowing yourself to be guided by your spirit. And at first, it feels a little bit scary, because if you are used to living your life purely from your intellect, and now you are shifting to trusting your guidance, your heart, your intuition, at first that can be scary because you don't have any context. You don't know what it's like. So it takes some time to develop this trust. Trust is necessary for us to feel safe. So those of you who this resonates for, you are developing more trust, and as a result you are feeling more safe and you are feeling more protected. I always say the universe has your back, and I know that's sometimes extremely difficult to grasp. How does the universe have my back when look what's happening to me? I understand. That's because when we filter what's happening purely through the intellect, the mind, the physical mind, the human ego mind has a very difficult time grasping that the universe has your back. Okay? Align your universe. Navigate distractions. So this is very similar to avoid drama at all cost. Keep your energy to yourself unless you are sure that, how do I say this, please? I'm going to say it differently. Stay focused on keeping your energy and your frequency aligned and centered. Be very mindful who or what you give your energy to. People, situations, media, what you read, what you see, what you put in your body, food, including thoughts. And stay focused on your alignment. You cannot make another person think something they're not ready to see. The best you can do is stay focused and stay aligned in your own energies, and hopefully that becomes an example of an inspiration to somebody else. So if you are someone who is very in tuned and you see the world through different eyes, and those around you look at you like you have horns growing out of your head, there is very little you can do in order to help them see what you see. And that's because unless they are willing to see, unless they are ready to see or to experience higher truth and higher consciousness, there's nothing you can do. And that's the most frustrating part for me as a healer. Although I've learned to detach from that, because that was purely my ego saying, oh, please believe this, look how wonderful it is. No. All I can do, and the best I can do, I can share with you information that if you choose to put into practice, if you choose to go, let me see if this works, and then you see for yourself, and then you go, wow, and then you embody, that's the best I can do. I cannot force anyone to see or believe what I believe or I see. For one, who am I to know what's best for you? I don't know. Only you know that, right? And what's best for you today may not be what's best for you tomorrow. What was best for you yesterday, it may not be what's best for you today. Okay? Only you know that. And that requires knowing your truth. All right, so stay aligned. Pile number 1. You've got wonderful, wonderful messages here. Pile number 2. What can you expect? Ooh. Trapped in fear. acceptance, and sacred divinity. There are two paths ahead. Okay, this card came up, I believe, last week. So let's talk about this little guy, Eight of Swords. What inside of you is causing you to feel trapped? What inside of you is causing you to feel trapped? You see, this person is in a prison, as you can tell by these bars, but there's light here coming in. The light to me represents higher truth, but the person is not willing to look at this light. They're not willing to look at this light. All they're doing is they are preoccupied with what is their story. They're lost in their story. They're lost in their own inner conflict, in their own inner drama. That is all they see. So what is your conflict? What is your inner conflict that keeps you trapped, that keeps you remain trapped in some prison, inner prison? Now, remember, if you feel trapped in your inner prison, then chances are you will experience entrapments in your life. You will feel like you are imprisoned. You will feel like you have no choices. You will feel like you have no freedom. That is what you will experience. But your experience is relative to your inner truth. So it is absolutely important for you to look at your inner truth. Again, I'm going to repeat myself, so I apologize. Looking at your inner truth and at your internal conflicts is not easy. It's not easy. I'll say it again. It's not easy. So when you say, but that's hard. Yes, it's hard. Yes. Check mark. Yes. Now let's move on. Okay. If you are ready to let go and find yourself in a different space, where there is a lot more freedom for you to experience in whatever capacity, then you have to face your inner truth first. Because unless you do, that thing that you are wanting to experience will just remain elusive. It's going to be very hard for you to grasp it because it'll be just outside of your reach. Okay? If you are ready, you'll know. You may not know how, that's okay. But if you are ready, if there is something inside of you that says, I'm done, I don't care what I have to do, I'm done living like this. Universe, show me the way. Mark my words. Mark my words. The universe will start sending you people, situations, and opportunities to help you do just that. But the universe cannot force you. Sometimes it'll feel like it's being forced. But again, knowing your truth or facing your truth cannot be forced. However, if you decide that this is the right time for you, I can certainly help you with that. That information is down below. How you can reach me, that's obviously up to you. There's many different beautiful people who will help you do that. But if you are ready, mark my words, the universe will always give you what you need. And then it's up to you to take the right steps. It is up to you to take the action. It is up to you to step out of your comfort zone. And yes, it will be uncomfortable. 100%. 100%. So you have two choices. Remain feeling uncomfortable in your current state, or go through the discomfort in order to finally at some point get out of it and create a new life for yourself. One that's much more expanded and much more higher vibrating. Again, there's no judgment here. If you choose to remain here, that's okay. It is okay. Sometimes it seems easier to remain here than to take steps forward to something that is better down the road. Why? Because you at least know what to expect. you at least know what to expect. So you have to choose between two discomforts. One that will be with you forever, and one that will be temporary. But after the temporary discomfort, there is greater peace. So you choose, you decide. Again, the universe is on your side. Wherever you decide, the universe is on your side. Facing your demons, if you will, or your conflict, if you will, can rarely be done without some level of acceptance. And this is what this is about. So the belly here is about acceptance. It's the ego. There are certain things we have to accept within ourselves in order to move forward to the next, more expanded version of ourselves. And that's just the way it is. And some things are hard to accept, yet accepted they have to be in order to move on. I'm asking them to give me an example. For example, if you feel that you are an unworthy person, and I use that example often because it's like a pandemic. A lot of us feel unworthiness. If you feel deep inside, if your deep truth is that you are unworthy, and that's an ego thing, that's because as a soul, there is no such thing as unworthiness. You're part of the universe. You're part of consciousness. Some call it God. How can you be unworthy? It doesn't exist. So when we feel unworthy, it's purely ego. It's a construct of our ego. It is connected to the 3D physical existence. It has nothing to do with who you are beyond your physical body. Okay? So unless you first accept this truth, you can't move from it. You can lie to yourself, you can pretend, you can deny, you can mask it, you can buy things, you can do whatever you want. Unless you actually face it and say, oh shit, I think I feel unworthy. And all this time I was fooling myself. There's no judgment in that. The ego is going to do what the ego wants to do in order to protect itself. But unless you face the fact that this is your truth, you can't move from it. And that's whether you're feeling unworthy. Pick any other subject or any other way you feel about yourself or any other truth that is being masked. Okay? If you don't accept your own value, and you look for validation from the outside to tell you that you are a valuable person, then you are a slave to the outside. And the universe is just going to keep on giving you situation to match what you're vibrating on the inside, which is not feeling like a valuable person. So unless you accept your own value, unless you accept that truth instead of some other distorted truth, you cannot move from your conflict. You simply can't. There was a saying that was given to me, and it's a very familiar saying. To experience the light, you have to move through the dark first. Another way of saying it is, to live your life from beyond your shadow, you first have to face your shadow. Okay? So did I say that we are in pretty intense energies? Yes, I did. Sacred divinity. There are two paths ahead. There's always more than one way of looking at things and therefore experiencing things. If you look at life in a certain way, then that is how you will experience your life. On the other hand, when you shift your perception and you start looking at life through a different lens, you will experience life in a different way. Remember, what is life? What is life? What is life? Ask anybody, what is life? There's no such thing as life. Life is a breath. Breath in and breath out. Everything else is a compilation of what you believe, and based on what you believe, you experience life. So if you have a lot of distorted views of you, and therefore the world, that will be your experience. On the other hand, when you look at your distortions and shift that distortion and move away from that distortion, then that is what you will experience. You will experience life in less distorted ways. I'm looking at the duck here. So the duck to me is a symbol that is all about water. What ducks do? They swim in water. They're very good at maneuvering in water. How do you, what's the word I want to use, please? How do you maneuver through your emotions? Do you stuff your emotions with food? Do you stuff it by making yourself busy? Do you stuff your emotions and pretend they don't exist? What do you do with your emotions? How do you move your emotions through your body? Do you allow yourself to feel and let that frequency move through your body? Or do you resist how you feel? Okay. If you resist how you feel, then you are resisting your truth. Okay. Now, how you feel may not be the truth, but it certainly is based on your truth. Now remember, there are many gazillion truths out there. Everyone has their own unique truth. We think this is true, that's true. No. You ask two people who are looking at the same thing, and they'll tell you a different version of what they're looking at, yet they're looking at the same thing. And that's because they're both looking from different sets of lenses. Okay? I want to talk about vulnerability here. Oftentimes, feeling can feel very vulnerable. As I was explaining earlier, when I am having these impactful moments of an anxiety and panic attacks, which I'm hoping not to have them anymore, but who knows? I'm just like, okay, I just accept that's part of moving this energy through, and I just do the best that I can, but I'll be honest, not a fan of them at all. That is a very vulnerable place for me to be. Extremely vulnerable. As a matter of fact, on few occasions, I had to call a friend just to be with me on the phone and help me breathe so that I could stay present, so that I could stay focused. Because I thought it literally felt like I was going to disappear. It's a horrible feeling, absolutely horrible. But I'm not going to focus on that. I'm not going to belabor it because that doesn't help. What I want to say here is that feeling is not comfortable. Feeling itself can be very vulnerable. But vulnerable is not bad. I want to say also vulnerability is your strength. If you can allow yourself to feel vulnerable, you are being strong. I want you to know that. Okay? And they're saying to me that allowing yourself to be vulnerable oftentimes alleviates a lot of our symptoms. And that's because when we have symptoms that we don't want to feel, that makes us feel vulnerable, we do everything to make sure that we don't feel it, But when we actually allow ourselves to feel it, and when we allow ourselves to stay vulnerable and just feel that vulnerability, it helps us move through whatever that is. Okay? And I'm also hearing, you're not alone in this. You're not alone in this. You're not alone in this. Ask for help if that is what you need, but you're not alone in this. Okay. Last but not least, pile number 3. We have emotional loss. Okay, so that's holding on to your past. We have living light energy in reverse, and we have determination in reverse. So all of these are coming up in reverse. I'll tell you what that means for me. So this is the 5 of Cups, I believe, in the traditional tarot. This is about holding on to your past. What are you resisting in your life right now? How will you know? You'll feel it. It's a feeling. Resistance, the reason why you know that you resist, because you feel it. Sometimes it's pretty easy to sorry, that's a dog in my song. Sometimes it's easy to pinpoint, sometimes it isn't. But resistance is generally a sign or a telltale of some conflict. What are you resisting, or what are you resisting letting go of? What are you holding on to, emotion-wise, that's no longer serving you? For example, if you have been victimized in the past, and I'm sure you have because you're a human being, are you holding on to that to this day, therefore remaining a victim? I'm not saying you have not been victimized. I've said this before. Those are two different things. We can be victimized and then move on, or we can be victimized and remain in that state as a victim. Are you a victim of your circumstance? Now, I know a lot of people are going to say, well, I'm not responsible. What happens to me? Look what's happening on the outside. Yes, 100%, I get it. What I'm saying to you is how you experience the outside is relative to what is your truth on the inside. So if you believe that you are a victim, or if you are in a victim mentality, yes, life will appear to you like you're being constantly victimized, 100%. Okay? So, and that's just the one example. And by the way, there's no blame in this. Again, there's no judgment. I come from very much a victimhood mentality. I still go there. It's, like I said, it's easy to get trapped into it, get sucked right in, especially now, these days, with what's going on in the world. I am admitting to you 100%. I go there, and it's like, oh God, here I am again. The one thing I've noticed that when I go there, it feels awful. It feels absolutely awful. I know I'm there because it feels awful. Here's the difference. I was there all the time, and I didn't feel awful because the awful was my everyday thing. It's how I vibrated all the time. So it didn't feel awful to me. To me, it was normal. But now that my norm is not that, and then I go back, it's like, oh, it's awful. It feels absolutely awful. And it takes a conscious effort on my part to get myself back to the center, to my center. And it takes effort. It takes effort. It's not easy like this, not yet anyway. But what I am noticing is I am way less in that consciousness and way more in the higher consciousness. So relative to where I was, as far as being a victim, I'm way, way, way better. Okay? It's a journey. So what are some of the emotions that don't serve you anymore? Also, please don't judge your emotions or your feelings as good or bad. Feeling or emotion is not good or bad. It may not feel good. It may feel bad, but it as a feeling or emotion is not good or bad. Feeling or emotion simply is. It's telling you what is happening on the inside. It's part of your story. Don't judge it as good or bad. Because when we start judging feelings as good or bad, then it's like, oh, it's bad, then I shouldn't feel it. There's no such thing. What do you mean you shouldn't feel it? You feel what you feel. There's no such thing you shouldn't feel. If you were not supposed to feel, you would be born like a robot. You'll be a psychopath. Okay? So please don't judge yourself for the way you feel. That's not the point here. The point is to recognize, what is your feeling telling you? What story is behind your feeling? What is the emotion trying to show you? What is triggered? What is the truth? What is the story? And are you okay with that story? Is this the story you want to live? And if you do, that's okay. There is no judgment. None. Not for me anyway. There's no judgment. Remember, you have free will. You have free will. No, you don't have free will on what's going to happen to you on the outside most of the time, but how you look at certain things, how you look at life, and how you look at yourself, that's up to you. That's up to you. And that's oftentimes very, very hard for the brain to grasp when you've been born into certain awareness and you think that's just you. That's how you think, and you don't question what you think or how you think or why you believe what you believe. But you have a choice to what you believe. You have a choice of what you think. You have a choice of how you see yourself. It's up to you. Living light energy. See the beauty in life. What I'm getting with this card is the word pessimistic. If you are not thriving in life, thriving, not just surviving, but thriving, maybe look at, notice if there is some pessimism. So if this is going to be for, it's very specific to those of you who have a pessimistic view of life. If you believe life sucks, if you believe life is shit, pardon my French, if you believe everyone is out there to get you, if you believe everyone controls you, if you believe that that's it, life sucks, this is just the way my life is, that's your truth. And no one, hear me when I say this, no one can change that for you but you. And when we realize that, and that takes some deep internal digging and a lot of strength and a lot of bypassing of the ego, because the ego will want to fight you. Of course I'm being victimized. Of course, look what's happening. They're telling me what to do. If that is your truth, that is how you will experience your life. I'm not saying it's easy. I said at the very beginning, 3 times probably, this is not easy. Check mark, next. You've got to decide. You've got to decide. It's up to you, okay? You want to be this tree of life, this tree of light. You want to be this illuminating force, and I'm getting chills as I say this. You want to, so if you're not this illuminating force, then you're in contradiction to it. Then you're in a shadow. So this talks about shadows. To be illuminating force means you don't have much restrictions holding back your light. Again, I'm going to repeat. This takes work. I apologize for repeating this over and over, but I don't want anyone to think that this is a walk in the park. It's not. It is. There's a reason why many people choose not to do the hard work because it's hard. But just like anything, hard work usually pays off. Okay? So most of you by now have gotten the message that spiritual work and shifting consciousness and moving into higher awarenesses takes some deep work and looking at inner conflict. So if you are not shining your bright lightly, if you are not illuminating, if you are not bursting with light, and if you are not feeling optimistic despite of what's going on, that's the trick. If you can be optimistic despite of what's going on, and I was having a really hard time with that the other day. I was right down angry at the whole world. It's like, oh, why are people so stuck in their ways? But I'm not here to change the world. You're not here to change the world. I'm here to hopefully shift me to higher vibration. You are here to hopefully shift you to higher vibration. You and I make up consciousness. So if you and I and billions of other people do that, we shift consciousness. Okay? This is all about the first chakra. It's all about survival. So there's a lot of fiery energy here. I feel a lot of anger. I feel a lot of angst. It came up in this way. I feel a lot of insecurity, a lot of fire, a lot of fire. I give the word indignant. I'm not quite sure what it means. Indignant. Just a lot of force, a lot of not settled. That is for sure. So for a lot of you drawn to pile number 3, you might want to look into doing some chakra clearing, particularly around your first and second chakra. Okay. The first 3 chakras are predominantly all about the ego. So those would be very important to clear and work with in order to have our energy flow. There's obviously higher chakras as well, but the 3 chakras are ego dominant, which means it's all about the ego. It's all about survival. It's all about the physicality. So chances are your fears, your survival fears, whatever they may be, are being triggered right now. And some of these are deeply, deeply, deeply rooted, and some of these are ancient old, which means they're not just from this lifetime, they're from other lifetimes. However, you cannot go back to thousands of years ago when you were in Egypt, for example, and change it. That's not how it works. You can only change it now, in the moment. Now, in the moment. What is your deep truth about survival? What truths do you hold about survival? About being a victim? About being controlled? About not having choices? About not being allowed? About not having freedom? What truths do you hold? And look at your deep survival truths. Do you have deep truths around fearing of being alone, left alone? Do you have fears around abandonment? Do you have fears around survival, that you won't be able to survive? Whatever that is for you, everyone will have their own inner story, inner conflict. Perhaps that is what you are holding on to, okay? Because if this is what you are holding on, if you're holding on to some distorted truths stemming from your past, and whatever you have brought in from other lifetimes, if you even believe in that stuff, Whatever you brought in from other lifetimes, in my work as a hypnotherapist, it is always triggered in this lifetime, usually in our childhood, okay, in our earlier experiences. But if you're holding onto distorted views around survival, then you will not be this illuminating light. You will live in shadows, or your life will be governed by your shadow. Okay? A lot of our survival fears stem from our parents. We take on our parents' survival fears. And we take them on without knowing we take them on. And oftentimes we take them on in the womb. We're not consciously saying, hey, I'm going to take this awareness of my mother being afraid. No, of course not. It's energy, it's frequency. But now that you have it, now that we have it, we have to be able to do something with it. And that's the distortion. We are here to clear the distortion of the ego. Okay? This clearing distortion of the ego allows us to expand. And expansion is what is happening right now. Expansion is what you're here for. Okay? By the way, the number 21 comes to 3, and that to me is all about expansion. Okay? Also, for some of you, March is a very important month for you. Okay? All right. That's all I have for you, for us. That was the longest transmission so far. Thank you for being part of my team. If you would like some freebies, channeled meditations, they're down there. I also did a webinar a couple of weeks ago on accessing your higher guidance, and I did an energy healing, group energy healing. There is a replay of it, and it is as powerful, if not more powerful from what I hear, as a replay. So that is down below. I will be doing those again. I will be taking some time off in August. I have been guided to just completely unplug because I need time to adjust to these energies, and clearly my body is screaming at me and saying too much, too much, too much, too much. So I may be skipping a week. I'll try not to, but if I do, that's why. I would love to see your comments. I read every single one of them. I thank you for spending your time with me. I look forward to seeing you again, and see you soon. Take care. Bye.